Father, tonight as we embark on this journey, whatever this journey is that you've set before us tonight, Father, I pray that the words of our mouth, the meditations of our heart, Father, I pray that they're pleasing, and I pray that they are sweet aroma to you, Father. I pray that we're obedient tonight, Lord. I pray that we do exactly what it is that you want us to do, even though that there's tension to want to do what was planned, or to do what we've had prepared. Father, I pray that we're obedient to follow the rhythm of your Spirit tonight. Lord, I pray that tonight we'll just feel the unforced rhythms of what it means to be in your presence and what it means to follow you. And so, Lord, this is your time. This isn't about anyone who's on stage. This isn't about some song. This isn't about a specific series or conversation we're in the middle of. Father, this is about us responding to you. So, Lord, I pray that we follow your leading tonight in verse 2. Amen. As I've been marinating in this verse all week, and really that's what it looks like in Scriptures when we see the Scriptures tell us to meditate day in and night out, day in and day out on the Scriptures. I had a meeting this morning at 7:30 in a coffee shop that I go to frequently for the past 7 years. I haven't been for 3 weeks. Something happened 3 weeks ago at this coffee shop where some things kind of were said, and it kind of just set wrong with me. There's been a pattern of some conversations that we've had with some of the workers there that were just kind of weird and awkward. And so I just said, you know what, 3 weeks ago I was having a meeting and something happened where I just felt like, man, I've been coming here for 7 years. 7 years. I've brought more business to this place. I've had more parties here. People know about this coffee shop more than, and I said, it's kind of just like the straw that broke the camel's back. And so I had a meeting 3 weeks. I had a meeting at this specific coffee shop this morning. I haven't been here for 3 weeks, and I knew exactly who was going to be working. And there was no falling out. I mean, they have no idea where my heart's at. So it wasn't awkward. There wasn't all this verbal sparring and fight. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, nobody would have ever known that there was anything wrong. It's just something my heart was wrestling with. And so I knew exactly who was going to be working. And so I went back in the hotel. I found myself as I got close to the coffee shop. I found myself just naturally, just unforced, pray this prayer. God, guard my heart in this moment, because I feel the resentment boiling up. I feel the entitlement brewing that this actually has something to do with me right now. So guard my heart, because I know that life begins in this moment. I know that the rest of my day starts now. I know that it's already started. I know that I've already spent time with you. But in this moment, my public day begins, and so guard my heart now in this moment. I found myself just naturally praying this as I pulled in, and so as I got my coffee, went into that. I had a meeting, and then I hung out there for a couple more hours, getting ready for tonight. And as I was packing up and leaving, I knew that I was going to see the same people as I was leaving. And so out of nowhere, again, just naturally, out of the overflow of my heart, I began praying this prayer that God, guard my heart, because I know I'm going to see these people again. Guard my mouth so I don't say something that I regret, so I don't say something stupid that I'm not going to be able to take it back. Just guard my heart, because I know that this is the wellspring of life. This is a picture of what it means to just allow the Scriptures to marinate in our lives, to allow us to meditate on the Scriptures, because they naturally begin to overflow in our life. They naturally begin to just take root. And so last week we talked a lot about this conversation. We used this language that was surrounding adventure and surrounding journey. I found myself really, really wrestling with this passage. Of all else, guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life. We talked last week about the language of the heart knows what journey is. The language of our heart knows what it means to be on a journey. It's something that our minds just can't fully wrap ourselves around. So I begin to think of this, it's almost as if, have you ever felt like potentially your heart knows something? Have you ever gotten to a point, into a conversation or into a moment where you experience that maybe your heart knows something in this moment that your mind fully doesn't understand? Have you ever experienced that before? Have you ever found yourself in a place where you feel like your heart knows something that your brain can't fully comprehend. And I believe, and I was wrestling with this, and I wonder, why do we need a mind and a heart? And then why did God take the time to remind us, if you're going to love me, make sure you love me with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. This is going to take everything to understand what it means to be a disciple of Christ. This is going to take everything if we're going to fully understand what it means to journey and participate and fall into the unforced rhythms of grace and following Christ. It's going to require everything, not just our minds. But I fear too often we've made this journey of following Christ cerebral and intellectual. It's just been so much about our minds. Maybe for fear that so many people, those who call themselves atheists or agnostics, have claimed that Christians have used faith as a crutch. Maybe it's because, maybe it's a repercussion, maybe it's pendulum propensity from saying so long, I feel like when I go to church I have to check my brain at the door. Maybe the pendulum propensity, maybe swinging the pendulum all the way to the other side. Maybe we said, you know what, we're going to jump in deep and we're going to have to use our minds to break this apart. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. But I fear, even in my own life, oftentimes we operate from a place of our minds and trying to wrap our minds around it when I feel at times our hearts are beginning to ask different questions. And so I'm beginning to learn, and we see this all the time as we open up the pages of the scriptures, that we see that there's really kind of like this dance between our mind and our hearts. It's kind of like this rhythm, this cadence that is necessary for both our mind and our hearts to join in together for any of this to make sense. But I want to give us permission tonight, because we've all experienced those moments before where we feel like our heart is telling us something, our heart is experiencing something or knows something that our minds can't just fully comprehend. Have you ever found yourself in a moment or in an experience where you feel like your heart is telling you to do something, but then you begin to rationalize it? Have you ever felt a prompting just out of nowhere when you look across the room and you see that girl sitting by herself, or you see that boy sitting by himself? Have you ever felt like a prompting, like I think I should go talk to her? I think I need to talk to him. Have you ever been prompted in any moments of I don't know, to give a gift or to give some money to a certain cause, or to support a certain story, to a certain meaning or person that you know? Have you ever undeniably at a moment felt the need and the urge and the craving and the yearning, like I have to go on a mission trip? Like, I have to do this. I have to do this. There's undeniably, unquestionably, I have to do this. Have you ever potentially felt yourself saying something along the lines of, like, man, I really think I should give her a call. I think I need to apologize. I think I should give her a call after we start from parents. I think I need to apologize. And then in the same moment, as soon as you see that girl sitting across the room, or your voice sitting across the room, and you realize, but what if I go over there and I don't know what to say? Like, what if I go over there and I begin to have this conversation? Like, what are people going to think when I'm having this conversation? Or give money to this cause? Give money to this person? Give money to this need? Like if I give money to this need, then I won't be able to buy this thing for myself, or I won't be able to go on this trip, or I won't be able to do this thing, or even worse, we begin to rationalize, like, what if I give money to this cause or this need, and they don't use the money for what it was originally intended to be used for? Go on a mission trip, like, man, if I go on a mission trip, I heard that this happened there a few years ago, and I heard that, my parents think it's dangerous, or I'm supposed to do this, but then I feel like I'm supposed to, but wait, and you end up not knowing. Or make that phone call, apologize? No, she's the one who said this to me. She's the one who wronged me. He's the one who turned his back on me. Me call and apologize? Can you see the tension between our hearts and our heads? Can you see the tension between the desire for our hearts to feel this deep invitation for journey, this deep invitation for adventure, And yet, do you see how times, if we're not careful, our minds begin to rationalize, and we begin to logic ourselves out of what it is that we feel our hearts are calling us to do. I wonder if God knew that we needed both, because there's going to be moments that we needed to trust our hearts, and there's going to be moments that we needed to trust in the logic and the rationale of our minds. I don't know, it's something kind of something that I'm wrestling with lately. I believe that God knew that the journey of our hearts was going to be wrapped up in this theme of adventure. And with adventure, we see this word romance kind of like coming up to the surface. Open your Bibles to Psalm chapter 42. Psalm chapter 42. Let me ask you one more question. I know that adventure is undeniably a piece of who we are. If you have a pulse tonight, adventure is undeniably a piece of who you are. Adventure is the language of the heart. Adventure, I would submit to you, biblically as we open up the scriptures, is inherently spiritual. I believe there's no such thing as following Christ and not experiencing adventure. There's no such thing. With the gospel comes this yearning and this craving for adventure. It becomes this compelling draw to adventure. So let me ask you this question. I think this is a good litmus test. I want you to gauge kind of where your heart's at with adventure tonight. Ask yourself this question. And again, you can write this down. Ask yourself this question. Is your heart currently in the place where it has more questions than it does answers? It's a good litmus test for gauging where your heart's at with adventure. Currently, right now in your life, is your heart experiencing more questions or more answers? There's something beautiful about questions. Questions keep our hearts in a posture of curiosity and wonder. Questions create movement and progress. Questions, they keep the mystery and the adventure alive. Where's your heart? Tonight, do you have more questions than you do answers? And I want to be clear here. Because tonight, if you're kind of void of questions in your life, like I want to submit to you tonight that like you're not experiencing adventure. You're not experiencing the deep life, the inner recesses of adventure. If you've got more answers, if you feel like if you're a student, you've been in church your whole life, you feel like you just, like there's nothing fresh anymore. Everything's kind of rote and mechanical and ritual and mundane. Again, let me warn you. Isaiah chapter 29, 13 to 14. You come near with your mouth, your lips, they honor me, but your hearts are far from me. Your worship is only man-made. It's made up of man-made rules. It's ritualistic. It's mechanical. There's no life in it. There's nothing fresh. But yet we see in the scriptures that, thank God, because your mercies are new every morning. Why would God bring a new day for us? Why would God give us grace and mercy for new breaths of fresh air every single day, for us to experience another moment to live? If adventure wasn't at the core of who we are, if adventure wasn't at the core of our spiritual journey, what's the point of new adventures and new mercies? And I think oftentimes if we're not careful, because we're always looking for this time and this place yet to come and be, that we've come to know as heaven in North America. But God is interested in you living now. God's interested in life now. I've been guilty of saying this to you, and you've probably heard this over and over and over again. Like, you're the church of tomorrow. We need to raise you up because you're going to be the leaders of the next generation church. Listen, I want to flip the script for you. Listen, you're the church of today. You're the church of now. So how's your adventure? How's your adventure? What questions are you asking? What questions are you seeking? I'm just thinking of movies right now that are just coming to my head. That, like, you know, you see people embark on these journeys, these mystery novels, or these, and you see that they uncover something else, and what does it immediately do? It gives them a new question. And so what do? They journey and they move and they progress to figure, and then they figure, and then there's another question, and then there's another question, and every turn, at every point, there's another question. The best stories have the best questions. The best teachers ask the best questions. The best students ask the best questions. Undeniably, at the core of who we are, at the core of our spiritual journey, lies questions. And this is why I said what I said last week. I believe that the more that I learn, I really believe the less that I know. And I believe when I get to the point, get to the place where I realize I know less, I believe that God's like, okay, now we can move. Now we can do something. Because you realize that you're an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think your ignorance. Psalm 42. Starting verse 1, it says, David, King David of Israel, he writes that this is kind of like his journey, his diary. He says, as the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. Question, can you say those words to me? My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. Does your heart cry that tonight? My heart thirsts for the living God. Can your heart find solidarity in this moment of Scripture? Can you feel David's journey, his adventure, his heart here? My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I meet with God? It seems like an obvious question, doesn't it? Does it seem even like a dumb question? When can I meet with God? My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I meet with God? It reminded me of this. David Tozer wrote, The Pursuit of God. He writes this. I've read this before. It's been a while. He says he's talking about those who are disciples of Jesus, those who have pursued the heart of God. He says they mourn for Him. When's the last time you mourned for God? By the way, the reason this is coming out, because this is where I'm at, you guys just happen to be my Catholic audience tonight, so you're going to church. When's the last time you mourned for God? When's the last time you couldn't control what was on the inside? It just had to come out. When's the last time they mourned for Him? They prayed and wrestled and sought for Him day and night. They prayed and wrestled and sought for Him day and night. Like, do you see out of questions come the yearning? Do you see out of questions come the wrestling? When was the last time you wrestled with God? When's the last time you allowed the journey of your heart, the moments when you believed like your heart knew something that your mind didn't? When's the last time you allowed your heart to wrestle with your head? When's the last time you embraced the adventure and your heart wandered? When's the last time you found yourself just doing something that seems so ridiculously stupid? When's the last time you felt yourself like walking up to someone and being like, I feel like I'm supposed to be talking to you. Welcome to my outer world. Like, when's the last time you just felt yourself just doing something that was so uncontrollable? See, I believe that what our mind has done, and again, the mind is a beautiful thing. Don't hear what I'm not saying. God has given us the mind to help the heart in moments and times that it's needed. But how often does your mind win and beat out? How often does your mind rationalize and through logic make your heart feel like it's, crazy dumb? Like, seriously? Has anyone ever done something like went skydiving or went bungee jumping or done something so stupid where you're standing at the precipice and you're like, everything inside of me is screaming to jump off this ledge? Cliff diving, something. You're looking down 60 feet into the water. You know it's safe. Many people have done it before you. You watch. You're standing there and you're like, everything inside of me is screaming to jump. You have to jump, but yet you're paralyzed. And your mind is wrestling, this tension is brewing, and you refuse, and you're paralyzed, cemented. I wonder how many of us find ourselves here spiritually, so to speak. Because here's what I keep hearing over and over and over again. I keep hearing that I have this desire. I have this desire. I want to do this. I no longer want to be this person. I no longer want to do this. I want to become what I know that I'm supposed to become. The things that I've been dreaming about, the things that I know in my heart, the story of my heart, the journey of my heart that leads me oftentimes deep at night when no one else is awake and I'm just lying awake, wide awake in my bed, staring at the ceiling, or for whatever reason I'm woken early and when our hearts are in stillness and in peace, and when it seems like the world is off duty for the moment. Like it's in those moments where doesn't it just seem like life comes alive? Then we wake back up, so to speak, and we step back from the edge and we turn back into the formulas of control that we allow our mind to put in place. I believe that life just has a whole bunch of formulas of control. We allow our brains to put these formulas of control, these fences, these barriers in place, so that it gives us the illusion of safety. If I stay right here, I know that I'm going to be safe. If I stay right here, I know it's comfortable, I know it's convenient, but most of all, I know it's safe. It's stable. I don't know I know everyone down there is okay. I know they just experienced an exhilarating rush. I know that they've got a story to tell. I know they've got an experience to go by, but it's just safe up here. I don't wonder how many Christians live life up here. The reason I don't wonder anymore is because the church would be different in America if we started to jump, wouldn't it? The church would be different in America if we started to jump. Just stay back in here because we've allowed ourselves to believe that this is safe. And yet we'll remain on top where the illusion and the mirage of safety remains. Listen to me. Every time we refuse to jump, our hearts die a little bit more. Every time we feel the nudge of adventure pierce our heart, and every time we don't follow, our hearts become a little bit more calloused, become a little bit more hard. They die ever so to translate the original Greek. The best way to translate it would be to experience life to the fullest, to the fullest, to the fullest, to the fullest, more abundantly than anything we've ever dreamed and imagined. That's what Christ offers us if we would just jump. And I know what this sounds like, because I feel like an idiot when I'm saying just jump. Just blindly jump. But yet I know that's what the scriptures say. I know that's what they say. But I also know this: as we stay in the top and we become calloused and we become hardened and our heart dies ever so slowly, I know that it gets easier to stay on top. When I refuse to jump once, it becomes easier to refuse to jump twice. And when I refuse to jump twice, it becomes easier to refuse to jump 3 times. You see the pattern? When I ignore the calling to adventure, to speak to the person that I feel like I'm supposed to speak to, when I feel like I'm supposed to tell them this, when I ignore it once, it becomes easier to ignore it twice. And a lot easier to ignore it the 3rd time. And a lot easier to make an excuse the 4th time when it comes around. And so we become bored and we become calloused and we just die a little bit at a time. And here's what I'm saying. If you're the church of today, if we are the church of now, I'm still in your generation. I know I'm older. And I know my beard makes me look like an old homeless man. I understand that. I like it. Leave me alone. But what I'm saying is I'm still in your generation. Your generation, considered Gen X or Gen Next or the millennials, however you want to look at it, started in 1980. I was born in 81. I'm on the backside of your generation. I'm in this with you guys. We're sojourners. Yes, I'm your pastor. Yes, I'm your shepherd. Yes, I'm your leader. But I'm in this with you guys. I'm preaching to myself tonight. That's why this is coming out. I'm sick and tired of remaining in safety. The illusion and the mirage of safety. They mourned for him, they prayed and they wrestled and they sought for him day and night, in season and out. And when they had found him, and when they had jumped, and when they felt the ground leave beneath their feet, the finding was all the sweeter for the long seeking. The adventure was all the sweeter for the long seeking. I believe for many of us, it only takes one time to jump. Because when you feel it, your heart, that's what Jesus says we're talking about. This is why I believe, how many of you have been on a mission trip before? On a mission trip in like in a desperate part of the world where like they have nothing. How many of you have been on a mission trip that we've experienced that? We talked about this in the worship last night. I believe that's why on mission trips we get a glimpse of this. When we're waking up in the morning and no one's, man, I've been on mission trips for like 2.5 weeks at a time and I never once looked in the mirror. Never once looked in the mirror. Didn't worry about making sure that my shirt matched my pants. I've been on mission trips where I've gone weeks without showering and it never fazed me. I believe on mission trips when you're serving and giving yourself away to people who have nothing. And when you begin to see the way that they live their life, I believe it's glimpses in those moments where we see our heart, where we see this longing, where we see this adventure like that's what I'm talking about. We're not worried about how we look. We're not worried about managing the perception of how other people perceive that we're supposed to be. They don't know who we are. We don't even speak the same language as we do. Isn't it incredible how we can go to Honduras and allow a kid who hasn't showered for a week, who smells like butt, I don't know what else to say, who just smells like absolute, who smells terrible? Isn't it incredible how we can go to Honduras and we don't care? We'll let him hug all over us, we'll let him snot all over us, we'll let him crawl all over us, we'll let him hug us, but yet we'll come here and we won't even talk to somebody who's a little bit different than us? How many people are already annoyed by the people ringing the ding bells, walking in and out of stores for Salvation Army? How many are already like looking at them indifferent? I was at the Goodwill today. Last night unfortunately today we've got a Christmas party with all our friends Saturday night. We're supposed to be